Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
Glad to have you here. Well, you've heard about the fatherless epidemic, millions of children born to homes without a dad. But how do you begin to turn this dark reality around? Where do you start putting the family back together again? That's a difficult question, but the Morning Light panel is ready to tackle it today.
Yeah, very difficult situation. But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. Learn how a Pennsylvania school is influencing culture through the arts to glorify God. The Lancaster Academy for the Performing Arts is here to share details of its upcoming cabaret.
I was listening in just a little bit during rehearsal. Incredible.
Yeah, sounds wonderful.
It's going to be great. Well, there is a debate raging over crime in America's urban centers. Are blue cities more crime-prone than red runs or vice versa? And is the military the last best tool for stopping crime? But underneath all the politics is a pretty bleak reality. Those who commit violent crimes often live in a hotbed of intense trauma with a common denominator: the absence of a dad, a father. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in the African-American community alone, 70% of black babies are born to single moms. 70% of incarcerated juveniles come from a home without dad present.
Wow. Certainly high numbers.
Stunning.
Yeah, it is stunning. And these statistics aren't just about incarceration. Widespread fatherlessness crosses into every racial category in America, reaching epidemic levels. The CDC finds 1/3 of white babies and more than half of Hispanic infants are born to single moms. Now, in the Asian population, there's more stability. But just in general, 1 in 4 children do not have a dad at home.
It really crosses all the boundaries. There is no longer an untouched community in America that hasn't seen the impact of fatherlessness.
Such a sad situation.
It is. Podcasters, pastors, even some politicians rightly point out dad as a financial provider is a good start, but it's not enough. There's growing recognition that it's important to raise children who are strong emotionally and mentally and spiritually. So how do we support men eager to go deeper, to take those first steps into rebuilding trust, stabilizing relationships? How do we help them know it's okay to stay, to be the dad maybe they never had? We'll take these hard questions to the Morning Light panel this morning. And friends, at the bottom of every one of the big issues in America, there seems to be a common thread in that it goes through the family. Addiction, crime, delinquency, all the education system goes back to it. In a very practical way, Cynthia, explain, you're in the education system, what does it look like in a practical day-to-day way for a child to come to school knowing that they go home to a place without a dad?
Just a family without stability. I mean, the practical pieces, they walk in without a lunchbox. You know, the practical pieces, you know, they may be cold, not necessarily because they don't have a dad, but just because they may be living in a motel. Mm-hmm. You know, I was telling the story earlier. I was stopped on the way here this morning behind a bus at a kind of a rundown motel, kids getting on the bus, considered homeless kids. Mm-hmm. And it is reaching all of us in smaller communities, larger communities. They don't have food. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you start out the day and know that your last meal may have been last night that was a snack before you can get to school to have lunch, that's an issue.
John, one of the statistics that we always look at is kind of the impact of fatherlessness on incarceration, and this is one area where it certainly crosses all of those racial barriers. What does that look like to have grown men who are incarcerated, and you know that the story runs through their home and there's likely not a dad there? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, it looks very prevalent, first of all. And I think that the worst part of it is that we talk about these kids using the disease model. Like there's an inevitability of incarceration, which there's not. It's a barrier. I mean, it's a destabilizing factor, and to Cynthia's point, it certainly makes it more challenging for young men to not have that guide in your life, to not understand, to not be able to take risks and have that safety net. It's devastating. And to your point, it's all communities. And I think our Lord gives us the perfect example in the prodigal father. I mean, it is the essence of what the kind of father we need. And the subtitle of that story is is not all the things we focus on, but when the prodigal son is running back, the father ran to him. There was no judgment. The kid was scared to death to come home. There was no judgment. There was just unconditional love and acceptance. And these kids lack that. And so just living a life without unconditional acceptance, that level of destability, and for young men, especially as you're growing up and trying to manage all the testosterone, the kind of things that make you a man, without that firm guide and understanding of what to do, it's very difficult to overcome that.
Talking to a guy yesterday, Tannon, who said, look, he said, I get the statistical piece of it, but there has to be some recognition that even if you were convinced that this is the right thing to do, to be a dad, it's a very hard and difficult journey back to rebuild trust, to walk into somebody's life again and say, hey, I'm dad. What are the practical steps if someone's convinced, okay, I need to be a dad, I've fathered children, I want to be in their life, to going back in and being a part of a family that you've maybe never seen?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say first and foremost, any crazy life decision like that starts with vulnerability. I mean, you have to be willing to not be great at it also. I think that's the obstacle that keeps people from trying, is they're afraid of failure. I mean, when I do premarital counseling, the first piece of advice I tell people is you're going to suck at it when you start. Like, you're not an expert. You don't start off being an incredible husband and an incredible wife. I would say the same thing goes for being a parent. I think there's a reason why God gave us a 9-month, forecast on you better get your stuff together. It's like, it's coming.
Yeah.
And I think that gift, if we don't take advantage of that time, can be very overwhelming and scary. And then if you prolong that time and you're absent completely out of the picture for years at a time, it feels even more vulnerable, more nerve-wracking trying to go back into it. But making that decision to say, I don't have to be the best, but understanding that really these statistics, what does it all go back to? It goes back to a present parent, not the best parent, not a model parent, not the quintessential stereotype of what a great dad is. It's just somebody who's there. And I think that having that knowledge helps overcome any initial anxiety of saying, like, I want to give it a shot. And of course, I mean, families are a microcosm of community. And I think that if you know that you can't create that thing that you didn't experience yourself, community is there to help be a part of that. Maybe you're not going to be the best, but you can bring other people alongside you to help you become a great dad.
Here's a hard question. Is there a point where it's too late, where you've said, look, we've gone this far without a relationship, and I know what the right answer is on this, but is there practically a point where a new family is established, you weren't there at the right place emotionally, physically, maybe addiction, other issues, you finally overcome them and you want to go back in and knock on the door? When is the line too late, and how does faith kind of put a lens that you can examine that question through?
I don't think it's ever too late for the relationship of the father that's entering, for the child that's entering. It may be really hard. And as I said earlier, this is coming from like the pretty blessed old white woman, but I think it's at least worth a try. But I think before you step into that, you have to be willing to either pray yourself or accept prayers for you. He is, to John's point, he is the father to the fatherless. And he's going to answer some questions. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it means it may have to be done. I think the other piece is, there's a lot of infighting that happens between moms and dads without ever saying to the child that may be 2 years old or maybe 32 years old, where do you fit in this? How do you feel about it? Because that's the hard piece.
So John, if you've mentored many young men off on in the sports world, people who are formerly incarcerated. You've taken a lot of people under your wing. For many of those people who have fathered, as many who have fathered children, there's nobody up the family tree to look to, not even an uncle, not even a grandfather who you could point to and say, where do you go to find that person to say, okay, I want to do this, but practically, where do you go?
Yeah, well, I think this is the essence of where the church needs to step up. I mean, St. Stephen, the first martyr, was also first deacon, and the deacon was assigned to take care of orphans and widows.
Right.
And so you go to church where the Father put a house where we can learn these things. And I think to your point, like, I wake up every day thinking about shortcomings as father, and as much this mentoring is repentance in real action for things that I screwed up 8 million ways from Sunday. But you have the church, you have the example. You have, in my case, a priest who's my spiritual father, who fills in those gaps that we need. We can't do it on our own, none of it. None of us can do it on our own. But we all have to take a role. And the notion that the church would act like, if you're talking about these kids and not talking to them, you're part of the problem, period. You're part of the problem.
I think the other piece is, the practical piece could be, you've got to find the John Wetzels. Like, if you are a parent and you look and go, I don't know if my kid can play football, or my kid's kind of tall, maybe there's a basketball program out there. I think you can find a coach out there, no matter what school system you are involved with, that is invested in a child that has nothing to do with sports and everything to do with what can help them on a day-to-day basis. It may not be them, but it may be him that can plug them into where they need to be.
That's beautiful. Last 45 seconds. Someone wants to, how do you look inside and ask God, what do you ask God for in moments like this? How do you pray if you want to be that dad?
I'm just going to immediately go off of John's reference to Stephen in Acts. I think what made that beautiful and what's important about this exact conversation, where Stephen's charge was, he's realized there was a racial breakdown in the way that people were being taken care of. And he made sure that race would never become an excuse for people's experience of the Christian faith. Wow. And I think in the issue of fatherlessness, unfortunately, in America specifically, we've said, well, if it's a black baby problem, it's a black father problem. And it's like, no. As believers, we are compelled by love to say, I'm not going to make it about color. I'm a dad. I'm a believer. I have the opportunity to love my fellow man. I'm going to do everything that I can. I think when we remove that excuse, we'll all be better for it.
Powerful final word. Thank you very, very much. Well, coming up on Morning Light, influencing culture through the arts to glorify God. The Lancaster Academy for the Performing Arts is hosting a cabaret. We'll share the details up next. You're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. The Lancaster Academy for the Performing Arts is celebrating 30 years of sharing the gospel. The mission is to help students in grades 1st through 12th to develop their God-given talents. Joining me is Kevin Goss, the Executive Director of the Academy. Thanks for being with us.
It's my pleasure, Debra.
Remind us again about the Academy.
Well, the Academy's been going for 30 years now. We're celebrating our 30th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Educating students from 1st through 12th grade, partnering with their parents. These are homeschool kids, private school kids who might not have access to really rich arts education, and we provide art, theater, instrumental, and even some dance and movement classes for them, hoping to both train them to appreciate, but also use their God-given talents to glorify Him, to show what's true, good, and beautiful to the world through culture and art and performances.
Yeah, that is wonderful. Let's talk about the cabaret that's coming up in October.
Yeah, people normally think about cabarets. They have this picture in their mind. Ours, in particular, will focus on the musical gifts. We're going back to our roots and our priority of using music to glorify God. And so if you come to our cabaret on Friday, October 10th, or Saturday, October 11th, you'll get to hear 13 or 14 musical acts, either vocal performances or instrumental performances. Some of our students have written their own music. Sometimes we have ensembles of families performing together. We had one great family ensemble last year. It was a trio on the accordion, drum, and violin. And it was just a beautiful experience just seeing families and our whole community come together around the love of music.
Yeah, my daughter was in a number of cabarets, and it's really nice because you see all different kinds of talent. Sure. What is the mission of the cabaret?
Well, the mission of the cabaret is to really give those students who might not have a theater bent an opportunity to use and exercise their gifts and talents in presenting music. in a way that's going to edify and encourage the audience. Music has a way of touching our heart and spirit in a way that sometimes many of the other arts and the things that, the tools that we use even in our Christian faith don't have the opportunity to. So music tells beautiful stories, it tells tragic stories, but all of those hopefully continue to point us in the right direction.
And how do you hope to share the gospel in this cabaret?
Well, that right direction is definitely towards the Lord, you know, and we know David wrote Psalms and music, and they dealt with every aspect of his life and culture and the human experience. And he continued to see how even in the tragic or the difficult circumstances that those music and those words and the truth of God being with us and for us and our sole source of salvation is the only way to have victory.
Yeah, that is certainly a wonderful example. And what do you hope people take away when they come to the cabaret?
Well, hopefully they'll be encouraged. Their spirits will be uplifted. I think we can think of so many different tools of getting the gospel out there, whether it's just sharing our testimony, but just the power of music and art to really touch the human spirit and to catch people's attention in a different way and point their eyes towards the Lord is what we hope people walk away from our cabaret with.
And music does play such an important role in, say, your faith journey.
It does, yeah. I mean, we sing psalms. You think about the tunes that we hum and how when we're in moments of anxiety or moments of joy, we find ourselves humming or whistling, a familiar tune. And hopefully some of these edifying, uplifting tunes will stick with people and be something that continues to buoy, uplift their spirits.
And many people may not even think about it, but I'm thinking that when I was younger, my mother, oh my goodness, I was so young, but would sing songs. And sing songs about the Bible. And that's just really sort of ingrained in you.
Yeah, it is. And those familiar songs, they do stick with you, don't they? And then we just see how that carries us into just greater and greater maturity. And that's what we hope through our education at Lancaster Academy, is that we see our students grow up and just continue to sing those songs that are going to carry them into adulthood, and that they're going to be able to cycle back around. In 30 years, we now have some of our teachers have been in the academy when they were children, and we have alumni returning with their own children. And so we just get to see that rich history of music and the arts influencing and building a Christian community of culture that's going to give glory to God in Lancaster.
Certainly, that's what we want to do.
That's for sure.
Thanks so much for being with us, Kevin.
My pleasure, Debra.
And coming up next on Morning Light, Kevin just shared the details of the cabaret at Lancaster Academy of Performing Arts. Next, you will get a sneak peek at one of the performances. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You just heard the mission of the Lancaster Academy for the Performing Arts. Now we want to share a sneak peek at what you can expect at its cabaret. This is Mary Frances Eschenwald singing "I Got the Sun in the Morning" from Annie Gets Your Gun.
Taking stock on what I have and what I haven't. What do I find? The things I have will keep me satisfied. Checking up on what I have and what I haven't. What do I find? A healthy balance on the credit side. Got no diamonds, got no pearls. Still, I think I'm a lucky girl. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no mansion, got no yacht. Still, I'm happy with what I got. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no checkbooks, banks, got no banks. Still, I'd like to express my thanks. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm alright. Got no butler, got no maid. Still, I think I've been overpaid. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no silver, got no gold. What I got can't be bought or sold. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no heirlooms for my kin. Made no will, but when I cash in, I'll leave the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm alright.
Very good. Love the song. My daughter was in that cabaret. Yes. Or in that Annie, Get Your Gun. So you are a senior. Tell us, how has this academy really strengthened your faith?
The community of Academy is like fostering those Christian values that I value so much, and just has a home base for me. So when I'm going out into the world, it's helping me hone attributes that I want to bring into the rest of my life. And all of the staff and all of the teachers that I've had have not only encouraged me in so many ways, but helped me sharpen my confidence and push me into situations where I grew so much as a person. And it's just really like, not only musically, just prepared me for the world.
Oh, and that's wonderful news. What are your plans after you graduate?
I'm hoping to find a program that not only furthers my education, but also helps me become a better Christian and a better person, whether that's something music related or something not. And also, I would love to keep performing a part, whether it's like community or in the future or something that I actually pursue professionally.
That's great to hear. And how do you hope to continue sharing the faith, your faith, with others?
Music is a baseline that I feel like anybody can connect with on a spiritual level. It's just inherently spiritual, no matter where somebody is on their faith walk. That's something that I'll always have in common with people around me. Even if I don't go into it career-wise, it's something that I'll always have and be able to connect with people with. So that's kind of my hope of how I'll hold that in my heart for the rest of my life.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your talents with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And to learn more about the Lancaster Academy for the Performing Arts or to attend the cabaret, check out lancasteracademy.org. Stay with us. We're back right after the break. Welcome back. Coming up tomorrow, Morning Light. Tomorrow marks the 24th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. We will introduce you to a woman who lived just blocks away from the Twin Towers. Learn how the events of that day changed her life and her faith. And that's a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts.
Yeah, Debra, I guess if you live 2 blocks away or 200 miles away, it's the defining event of our generation and changed all of our lives. So
certainly had an impact on so many people.
Looking forward to hearing that conversation. Well, on September 10th, 1897, coal miners in Latimer, Pennsylvania, that's near Hazleton, with last names like Grasky and Zeminski and Varuku and Kolik, joined protests against pay cuts, meager wages, unsafe working conditions. But they had a pretty big disadvantage, these coal miners. They worked, they worshiped, they lived, they raised their families, not in English, but in Polish and Slovak and Lithuanian and German. And because they couldn't speak English, they were paid less, a whole lot less. In every way, these men were discounted. They were treated as second-class citizens. Local newspapers stirred the pot. They framed them as dangerous foreigners. And to quell the protests from the miners, the local sheriff deputized 150 armed men who came face to face with nearly 400 peaceful miners, armed only with lunch pails, walking. They opened fire at close range, killing 19 injuring 38 others. The Latimer Mine Massacre is an ugly, terrible moment in the history of Pennsylvania. And when we forget moments like that just because someone prays, someone sings, someone works in another language, they're somehow less human, they're somehow less valuable, somehow they are less of a creation of God. 120 years after those men were laid to rest, we ask God to grant us the grace to see people as He sees them, worthy of dignity, honor, and respect. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for watching today. Check on your neighbors. God willing, we'll see you back here tomorrow morning.